guys, welcome back to Mondays at the Museum. I'm Carrie and I'm here at the Anna Bemis Palmer Museum in York, Nebraska. A common question that I've gotten since I've taken over this job is, what item is your favorite item in the museum's collection? And I'm still going through boxes and still making discoveries every single day. But I will say there are a few favorites that I have on display here in our America at War exhibit. And I'm going to share one of those with you today. So, Joseph Atmater McCarthy lived a little bit of a sad life. And in order to get how big of an impact these items are in our collection, I'm going to have to give you a little bit of info on his background. So, Joe came to Nebraska on the Orphan train in the early 1900s from New York. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the Orphan train, basically between the years of 1854 and 1929, it was a welfare organization that took orphan and abandoned children from the East Coast and brought them on literal trains to rural communities such as York. It's said that during those years, over 250,000 kids were transported via train. And Joe was one of those kids. So when he came here, he was originally taken in by a German-speaking couple, which was all good, great, grand, wonderful, except for the fact that he did not speak German. So that went about as well as you can imagine. In the end, a local pastor reached out to the McCarthy family and asked if they would house him, and just house him, until he was able to send him back to the train and back to New York. And the McCarthys graciously took him in, and they housed him, and they lived with the expectation that he could be taken away from them at any moment. So he was never formally adopted, because they all expected, tomorrow he's going to be taken back, tomorrow he's going to be taken back, tomorrow he's going to be taken back. And it never happened, and it never happened, and it never happened. And he actually ended up staying with them until he left for service in World War I. And in World War I, he was a private in the 127th Field Artillery Regiment of the 34th Division, which was out of Nebraska. While in his service, he was on a ship, and the ship came into a storm, and he caught pneumonia and passed away in Belfast, Ireland. And he passed away October 14th, 1918. As part of his service, he was in possession of a $10,000 life insurance policy. So he passed away, which means that this goes to his next of kin. Well, who's that going to be? You can't give it to his biological parents because they weren't in the picture. You couldn't give it to the German-speaking couple because they gave up their parental rights. You can't give it to the McCarthy family because they never formally adopted him. So what happens? At the time, a congressman stepped in, and he made the ruling that the McCarthy family could receive the money because it was only fair, as they had raised him. Now, the really interesting part about all of this is that the McCarthys were heavily in debt at this time. There was mounting mortgage payments, bad crops. The farm was going to go. And this $10,000 actually came in and saved their farm. And it's just really interesting to me because the McCarthys took him in and they saved him from living a life of loneliness. And in the end, he ended up saving them when he saved their farm, which I just think is really heartwarming. So, like I said, a super sad story. And when people ask me about my favorite items, I do have a lot of favorite items, but just the stories behind those items are just so interesting and impactful for me. And hearing that story and seeing how long that these artifacts have survived has really been the big factor on why we did the America at War exhibit first. So now I'm going to show you the items that we have from Joe McCarthy. So we're going to walk over to our World War I section of the America at War exhibit, where we will find a footlocker belonging to Joe, as well as some framed memorabilia from his family. So here we have the footlocker, and here we have the frame. So right away, you're going to notice on the top of the footlocker, he took nails and he spelled out Joe A. McCarthy, Battery F, and then on the side, USA. When you open it up, photos dating back to 1917 were able to be preserved inside the box. I'll show you a little bit closer here. Some of those photos. Now, on top of the box, we have this frame memorabilia set put together by his family. In it, you'll see the telegram alerting the McCarthy family to Joe's passing, some information about his life insurance policy, some correspondence between him and the McCarthy family, as well as information on Joe's burial. So Joe's family was given 3 options for his burial. He could either stay in Belfast, but the family had to pay for the upkeep of the grave. He could be moved to London, where the U.S. government would take care of all that upkeep. Or he could be moved to the U.S. at Arlington or somewhere local for a fee. The family chose to go with London, where he is now buried in Brookwood Cemetery. So this is cemetery program. We've got some photos of his grave. You can see here all of his information, and we have a picture of Joe. And then some other interesting government information altogether. We also have other correspondence similar to this. It's not in the frame, but if people are interested in seeing it, I'm happy to take it out for them. So that's a little bit about my favorite items here that I've discovered so far. Like I said, there are a few favorites. I'm going to be featuring those in upcoming Mondays at the Museum videos. If you were here for the grand opening or our first week and you had a favorite, let me know in the comments, and I'm happy to get you more information about that item. So, as mentioned, next few videos for this Mondays at the Museum series are going to be on items featured for our America at War exhibit. And if you haven't had the time to come and check us out yet, November 16th from 4:30 to 6, we will be hosting Vibe at 5. We're going to have a hot cocoa bar and some patriotic cookies. And we're going to have local veterans on hand to answer questions and tell their stories. So we'd love to see you here. We'll see you next week.